to another Teacher's Corner. I'm Teacher Kirby, this time coming at you from above Defera. So this time, this will be, at least for now, the next in my series, or the last in my series, of the specialization traits. Since the last time I made this, we did not yet have the temporal operative trait. So this will be reviewing temporal operative and hoping to explain it a bit so that you understand it a little bit better. Alright, so we'll go over the tier 1 first. Alright, so we'll start with the ground side. We have imminent decay. Your ground weapons gain a chance to inflict a short duration physical damage over time effect. So it's a 5% chance, and you do 765.1 physical damage every second for 10 seconds. So this is actually quite good. It is a damage over time effect. Remember that. And it is a 5% chance, so it's usually double the usual chance that you get, at least in space. Basically, it means that it's free DPS. It's free damage, so why not? Okay. And then we have decay amplification. And this increases your damage inflicted by all of your damage over time effects. Now guess what? That includes your imminent decay, because it says all damage over time effects. So it's 10% to all damage over time for ground effects. Okay. And then we have further down a 20% increase to all damage over time effects for ground, of course. Okay. So again, quite good. If you do a lot of damage over time effects, it's good. Even if you don't do a lot of damage over time effects, it is going to amplify the first one, the first point you spent. So as you can see, from the very first point, this is improving the damage that you can inflict. Okay. And then we have decayed defenses. While in ground combat, dealing weapon damage to a foe that has at least one damage over time effect already applied. So that means that it has this already applied. Okay. Will also apply a damage resistance debuff to them for several seconds. So this says, hey, we're applying this imminent decay thing to you. Now you're going to be even less resistant to the damage that we're shooting at you. So basically, when dealing weapon damage to a foe that has at least one damage over time effect applied, -5 all damage resistance rating for 10 seconds. So yeah, so basically it says we're applying the damage over time. Oh, by the way, you'll be less resistant to all damage for 10 seconds. And this one, the decayed defenses 2, of course, improves the decayed defenses 1. So now instead of -5 all damage resistance, they have -10 all damage resistance. So basically, you hit them with the damage over time, and then they get a damage resistance debuff, so they lose some of their damage resistance, so then everything you do hits that much harder. Okay, so that is, this whole tier for the ground is awesome. So now you'll notice it's very similar for space. So first we have Entropic Rider, which is pretty much same thing as ground. It's 2.5% chance that you will do a physical damage over time effect to your enemy while you're shooting with energy weapons or starship weapons. So it's not just energy weapons. Wait. Greater chance for projectiles than it is for energy weapons. Okay. 10% chance with projectiles. So it is all your weapons, including torpedoes or mines. Okay. And torpedoes have a 10% chance rather than the 2.5% chance. So that's a pretty good thing. Now, so this is awesome. This can account in a high DPS run for 6, 7, even 10k, even 10,000 of your DPS of your damage. Okay, so say in a 150k run, 10k of your damage can come from this alone. This is a awesome addition. So from the very first point spent in this tree, you're getting amazing DPS there. A DPS boost. Alright. Now if we come down this way, entropic amplification, just like with ground, this is going to enhance or increase the damage from all damage over time effects, and that does include your entropic rider. So this gives plus 10% all damage for space damage over time effects, and entropic amplification 2 gives plus 20% all damage for space damage over time effects. So again, that's increasing, including your entropic rider. So the right side of this tree, this is going to get you some really good DPS in space. Okay, this is going to add quite a bit. Alright, and then we have, of course, atrophied defense. So again, dealing weapon damage to a foe that has at least 1 damage over time effect. You get -5 all damage resistance rating for 10 seconds. So again, same thing that we had on the ground. Hey, you got damage over time effect? Well, guess what? You're less resistant to everything else. So atrophied defense 1, -5. Atrophied defense 2 is -10 all damage resistance. So again, top tier, you're already in it. You're getting lots of extra DPS just from that. This is why, this is probably one of the biggest reasons why the DPS crowd is telling you Temporal Operative. Right from the start, it comes out of the gate raring like a big bull. Alright, so then we have tier 2, inevitability. Now this is when we start getting into the next thing about it. Okay, so increase how quickly certain abilities recharge. In ground combat, this ability speeds up the recharge of kit modules. In space combat, this ability speeds up the recharge of exotic damage bridge officer abilities. Okay, so for ground, this will speed up the recharge on all kit module abilities. Doesn't matter. 10%. In space, this gives plus 5% power recharge speed on all exotic damage bridge officer abilities. So if it deals exotic damage, it's going to be sped up. So this means most temporal operative abilities, and this means your science abilities that deal exotic damage. So that means, for example, destabilizing resonance beam, gravity well, subspace vortex, things like that. Okay, those are going to be sped up 5%. Power recharge speed, those are going to be what's going to be sped up. All right, and then if we go down, similar icon here, now we have on the ground 15% power recharge speed, and in space 7.5, same conditions. And then if we go down to inevitability 3, we now have 20% power recharge speed on kit modules for ground and 10% recharge speed on all exotic damage abilities. Now, the good thing for space anyway, those exotic damage abilities tend to have a really long cooldown. So getting that cooldown shorter is an amazing thing. So if you are a science-based ship, if that's where most of your damage is coming from, this is really going to help you out. Even if you just have one or two of those abilities, if you're a beamboat and you throw out a gravity well to help you out, then this is still going to help. You're going to be able to throw that gravity well a little more often. Okay, now let's look at uncertainty. Uncertainty 1, activating any kit module damage or exotic damage grants you a small amount of temporary hit points. This effect can stack several times, each time adding additional temporary hit points to your current pool. So in space you get 635.4 temp hit points, lasts 10 seconds, and you can stack that up to 10 times max. And this is only when activating exotic damage abilities. So that can go up to 6,354 temporary hit points. It's not terrible. In ground, I'm not sure if that's the actual amount because we're reading it in space, but it does say 635. That would be an amazing amount of hit points. So I'm not sure that's accurate for ground. Sorry, guys. And uncertainty 2 increases the amount to 953.1 with a total possible of 9,531. Oh my goodness. Alright, so remember, in order to get this, you have to activate an exotic damage ability in space or any kit module on ground. Okay, so in other words, you have to activate that gravel, you have to activate that subspace vortex or that destabilizing resonance beam. Okay, so if you're doing a lot of exotic damage, this is amazing, 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 because that's going to help your survivability. Okay, tier 3 is modular momentum for the ground, and this says activating any kit module ability will cause all secondary firing modes to recharge more quickly. Well, secondary firing modes are one of those things that don't recharge very fast on the ground, so this is going to help for those long ones. This effect is immediately applied when the kit module is activated and only affects secondary firing modes that are already in cooldown. So if you're not in cooldown, it's not going to make the next one cool off faster. Okay, and it reduces secondary firing mode cooldowns by 2 seconds or 10%, whichever is less. Okay, and the modular momentum 2 puts it up to 3 seconds or 15%, whichever is less. Alright, now for the other side, we have Temporal Rebuke. Whenever you are struck by a foe within melee range, that's pretty close, there is a chance you will automatically stun that foe for several seconds, preventing them from moving or taking action. So whenever you are hit by your attacker within 5 meters, the foe is stunned for 4 seconds. After being triggered, it may not activate again for 30 seconds. So it's stun a foe for 4 seconds, then you can't do it again for 30 seconds. Alright, so then we have, in addition to Temporal Rebuke, now there's Decaying Rebuke, which means when Temporal Rebuke is triggered, the affected enemy is also afflicted with a physical damage over time effect for several seconds. Now remember, it's damage over time, which means it's going to be amplified by these abilities up here, temporal decay amplification. Oh goodness, can't speak today. Decay amplification. So you already see it. It's going to be amplified already. I doubt these numbers because these look like space numbers. But yeah, it's probably going to be 61.16. Okay, 10%. Okay, so when Temporal Rebuke is triggered, the affected enemy is also afflicted with damage over time effect for several seconds. So an amount of physical damage for 10 seconds, and it of course ignores shields. Now, the amount of physical damage is increased for Decaying Rebuke 2. And again, this ignores shields. There you go. Now for space, we have temporal cross wiring. Okay. Activating any exotic damage ability will provide you with a temporary debuff that improves the speed of your energy weapons firing cycles, making them both activate and recharge more quickly. This buff may be applied up to 4 times. Okay, so what this is saying, 2.5, 5%, 7.5, so up to 10% firing cycle haste for energy weapons for 10 seconds. Okay, so quite good. Not a bad thing at all. Alright, so this means not only will they fire faster, their recharge time, so the entire firing cycle, is sped up. And if you pay attention at all, the faster things fire, the more damage you're going to do. Alright, so the more your weapons fire, the more damage you can do. So this is actually quite a good thing, especially if you are a science boat that has a lot of exotic damage abilities. Alright, so this will get you up to 10% firing cycle haste for 10 seconds. Now let's see what Temporal Cross Wiring 2 does. Now this will give you 5% firing cycle haste for 10 seconds, so that means it stacks up to 4 times, so that means 20% firing cycle haste. Alright, so there you go. You can have up to 20% firing cycle haste just from these 2 points, because you have to spend a point here in order to unlock this. Alright, so then we have Anomaly Leash. Anomaly Leash is quite interesting. So, anomalies summoned by you are now mobile and will move at a slow pace toward whatever enemy you currently have targeted. Now, it is quite a slow pace. I'll tell you, it doesn't move very far before the anomaly disappears, because all of these have a very short time frame that they are active. Alright, so we're looking at, it lists the anomalies that are affected by this. So the anomalies affected are gravity well, Tychon's rift, subspace vortex, ionic turbulence, chronometric inversion field, and timeline collapse. So basically what happens, you have your target you target something, you put out your anomaly, whatever it is, and your anomaly will then move towards the target. So say your target tries to move or is able to move a little bit, it's going to follow it. Okay? And of course, anomaly leash 2 increases the flight speed. Trust me, it is still a very slow speed. So if you do something like gravel all the targets in an ISA all the spheres, and then change your attention back to the transformer, it's not going to bring all the nanite spheres to the transformer before the gravity well disappears. I promise you, it's not. At most, your gravity well will only last for 20 seconds. It's not going to pull them nearly close enough to do anything like that. Alright? And then we have phasic artillery. And this has to deal with mines. Your mines and targetable torpedoes. These are usually high yield torpedoes. So your mines and targetable torpedoes are slightly out of phase, granting them the ability to absorb a small amount of incoming damage before being destroyed. This is represented as temporary hit points and may allow them to survive enemy fire and hazardous anomalies. So after launching mines or a targetable torpedo, grant to them 6,353.8 temporary hit points. That's actually quite good. It's still your mines and targetable torpedoes are still likely to be destroyed fairly quickly, but hey, this at least gives them a fighting chance. Alright, and the final tier, we start with continuity. When reduced to less than 10% of your hull, so basically you're in oh shit phase, you will immediately be removed from danger. Your ship will teleport approximately 8 kilometers from its current location. So basically what it's saying is, you're going, oh shit, I'm gonna die. And this ability goes clunk and pulls you 8 kilometers away. Okay? So, 8 kilometers back. You become briefly untargetable. That means nothing can hurt you. You're good. Okay? And you have your hull and shields restored by a large amount. So basically what this does is it pulls you away from the shit targeting you. It makes it impossible for them to target you for a short time. And it gives you a bunch of hull and shields, so you are no longer in oh shit phase. Okay? And this action also wipes all accumulated threat versus NPCs. So it means that basically the NPC's going, we gotta kill them right now. That's gone. Okay? Now, here's the key, or here's the big thing that we're going to talk about here. After continuity is triggered, your ship will perform at less than full capacity for a short period of time as the timelines adjust to this sudden shift of probability. This effect may only trigger once every 3 minutes. So this isn't a constant save me from oh shit. This is a save me from oh shit once every 3 minutes. Alright. And here's the other key. If threatening stance is active, the teleport and threat wipe will not occur. So that means if you are in threatening stance, you will not be pulled away to safety, and you will not have the threat wipe. So they're still going to go get that guy, but you will get a shield and hull heal. Okay, so, but it doesn't screw up your tanking. All right. So the TLDR, 10% hull, get plucked away, teleported back 8 kilometers, and hull and shields healed, and not everything's trying to kill you anymore. Okay, if you're in threatening stance, everything will still try to kill you, but you'll still have your hull and shields healed. Alright, and this only happens once every 3 minutes. But there's a downside, what they call an adjustment period, and that's down at the bottom, and that is minus 80% all damage for 20 seconds. That's huge. And minus 66.7% flight speed for 20 seconds. Again, that's huge, but there is hope for those of you that think, oh my god, this is great. All right, and again, this is for 20 seconds. All right, so now if we come down on the right hand side, we have Temporal Adaptation 1. And it says, adjustment period debuff that is applied when continuity is triggered does not last as long. So it lasts with 1 point in temporal adaptation, or in Temporal Adaptation 1, it lasts only 10 seconds instead of 20 seconds. So, oh my god, you only have 10 seconds now for your adaptation. That's quite good. Now if you go down to Temporal Adaptation 2, adjustment period debuff no longer applies when continuity is triggered. Oh my god! You know, realize what this means? This means you can have continuity, this great oh shit passive ability, and no downside. No temporal adaptation, no damage debuff to you, no flight speed debuff to you at all. So, if you're going to put the point in continuity, make sure you have 3 spec points so you can immediately put 2 points into the temporal adaptation. I personally would not get continuity until you can put all 3 points in for these two. And then moving on to causal glitch. When continuity is triggered, all bridge officer abilities and captain abilities that are currently in cooldown will have their remaining recharge timers heavily reduced. So that's by 25%. And if you go to causal glitch 2, that reduction is now 50%. Alright, so, and this is all triggered by continuity. Alright, now if you don't want, here's the thing to remember, if you don't want to be teleported 8 kilometers back, you must be in threatening stance. Alright, so reduce cooldown on all bridge officer and captain abilities by 50%. That's causal glitch. Oh my goodness, I cannot speak today. Causal glitch 2. And of course, that's when continuity is triggered. Alright, so this has been the overview of Temporal Operative. You can obviously see why a lot of the DPS community is going nuts about this tree. It is quite good, both for ground and space, and I do hope you have learned something here. So this is Teacher Kirby. You can hear the discussion of Teacher's Corner live on the Pilot Review Show every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. I look forward to seeing you there.